Elephant Man Podcast Network, grown man conversations dealing with elephants in the room. It's your man DB. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you can know when new material is coming out. IG Elephant Man _ podcast, Facebook / Elephant Man Podcast, and then on YouTube as well. What's going on, family? What's going on, family? It's been a minute. Blessings to you all. Shalom, shalom. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Just pray for me and my family. Just had a death in our family. My wife's mother. She transitioned to go to glory with the Most High. So we praying. Be praying for us. Keep us in your prayer. And so yeah, man, we want to make sure we get on and lift each other up and make sure you make them calls to people, to family, to friends, to loved ones that you ain't seen and heard from them in a long time. Find their number, find their email, find them and get in contact with them. Just pick the phone up and just say, hey, I just wanted to, just call them to say what's going on, how you doing. You know what I mean? Because, you never know when it'll be the last time that you will see your family and friends. So make sure you do that, man. So yeah, be in prayer for us. But I'm gonna let y'all know. This is very, very interesting as far as what's going on with NATO and the different things around the world, man. It's just crazy. The good guys, the bad guys, and the broken moral compass. Now, this is a pre-recorded live. It's going on at the same time during the address, the State of the Union address, and I'll check that out later. But it's very, very interesting, man. It's a broken moral compass, and we to defining who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, and all of sin basically and come short of the glory of the Most High if we ain't in right status with the Most High. You know what I mean? So there ain't no good side, no bad side. But it's very, very interesting how they got war going on right now. I seen one post that said we want from tanks. We can get you with the tanks, or we can get you with the banks. And I was like, man, that's very interesting that they said that. You know what I mean? And they can put that monetary squeeze on you. Also, another thing, I hear language like alliance and nuclear umbrella because we have some countries that's not a part of the arms race. They don't have nuclear weapons. They want some countries not allowed nuclear weapons, like the whole continent. If you think about it, there's none of them countries on the continent of Africa have nuclear weapons, right? And that's by design. You know what I mean? But then there's other countries like Finland. I don't think they got a strong military force. So they're like, look, the way they're showing everything that's going on with the whole Russian-Ukrainian conflict, it's like, man, all they need is a big powerhouse to come in, big bank take little bank, and come and take your country and your goods. And so you need to get with us. You need to get an alliance, man. You need to get with us, or you need to get underneath our nuclear umbrella, so you'll be safe. Because if they touch you, then they touch us. So you got to surrender. And I think it was talking about how Ukraine surrendered some of their military might to NATO, in order to stop Russia. Then Russia went in there and did what it needed to do. And, NATO was slow on the draw on getting help. And it's just crazy, man. It's just really, 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 really crazy. But I'm going to show just a few videos. I'm going to show this video first as far as what they're doing with the Russian and Ukraine thing. So I'm going to check this out. Let's go to this. Check this video out real quick.
Penalties are being imposed on Russia. And they've started disrupting the country's economy. The Moscow Stock Exchange has been shut for 2 days now. Investors are divesting themselves of Russian interests. The government's borrowing, the borrowing costs of the Russian government have doubled to 17%. The S&P Credit Agency has downgraded Russia to junk status. And to make this economic blowback worse, a number of multinationals are severing ties with Moscow. This includes energy companies, tech giants, banks, production houses, sporting bodies. A host of them have decided to suspend operations in Russia. JP Morgan says if this trend continues, Russia could soon enter a recession. Here's a report.
Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia.
And Russian leadership will face unprecedented isolation.
We are now progressing at the second phase of those financial sanctions.
Les sanctions portées à la Russie seront à la hauteur de l'agression dont elle se rend coupable.
We will weaken Russia's economic base and its capacity to modernize.
日本はプーチン大統領を含むロシア政府関係者
With new financial measures, we're taking new powers to target Russian finance.
As attacks continue in Ukraine and Russian forces press their advance, the West has unveiled a series of sanctions. To deprive Putin of the funds he needs for this war, they've targeted Russian banks, oligarchs, businesses, oil refineries, and military exports. These financial penalties have already disrupted the Moscow Stock Exchange and sent the Russian currency cratering more than 30%. A sharper economic fallout is expected in the days ahead. JP Morgan says Russia could even enter a recession. To make this economic blowback worse, the corporate world is also severing ties with Russia. A host of multinational companies have taken some big steps. If we speak of oil companies, energy giant Shell has decided to exit all Russian operations, including its partnership with Russia's state-owned Gazprom. Norwegian energy firm Equinor is also divesting its joint ventures in Russia. It will be abandoning a deal it struck almost 30 years ago. If we speak of tech giants, Dell has suspended all product sales in Russia. Intel is suspending chip shipments to Russia. Facebook parent company Meta has barred Russian ads on its website. Twitter, too, has restricted access to Russian handles in Europe. And Google has banned Russian state media from collecting ad money from its websites, apps, and YouTube videos. Then we have financial institutions. British bank HSBC is winding down relations with several Russian banks. The New York Stock Exchange has temporarily suspended trading for Russian companies. Nasdaq, too, has barred Russian-owned firms from trading on its exchanges. The list doesn't end there. FIFA and UEFA have barred Russia from all international competitions. The IOC has banned both Russian and Belarusian athletes from competing. Formula One has cancelled this year's Russian Grand Prix. Transport giants FedEx and UPS have suspended their shipments to Russia. America's Delta Airlines has halted its alliance with Russia's Aeroflot. Disney has paused theatrical releases of its films in Russia. Netflix has suspended its streaming of all its services. And singing competition Eurovision will not allow any Russian acts this year. Even the president of Russia hasn't been spared. In 2013, he was conferred with an honorary black belt by World Taekwondo. The organization has now stripped him of this honor. It has also refused to recognize any Taekwondo events in Russia henceforth. Now, here's the thing. Some of these measures may be purely symbolic. They may not inflict serious economic damages on Russia, but they send a message to Moscow that there can be no place for such naked aggression in today's world.
Man, I had a chuckle. It was like they took the honorary black belt back from like, give it that back. The honorary black belt? You try to do some of the moves on somebody that's a real black belt, man. I gotta stay focused, man. They done took the honorary black belt back from this man. Man, it's a dirty game. But to be like that aggression shouldn't go on. I'm like, that's what y'all been doing for years with the colonization, the scramble for Africa, and all of a sudden Ukraine getting beat up. And I got some information on Ukraine. All of a sudden Ukraine getting beat up, and everybody just like people was pouring out Russian vodka at bars. It's like, man, these folk crazy, man. That jab is it's sad, it's crazy, it's confusing, man. It's confusing. But one thing I did want to say about that is I thought when we talked about that social credit score, they're gonna do it. I think that's the capability to do to individuals when they don't have that social credit score, when they don't comply, when they don't do the things that need to be done. People are gonna be getting hit up like that. Jabs are gonna be free. So if we had an all digital everything metaverse or whatever, they can freeze you up, block your money, block your accounts. You know what I mean? And so you can't really move. You know, and it did say people won't be able to buy, sell, or trade without the mark of the beast. And I don't think, that's the mark of the beast, but I'm saying you won't be able to move and maneuver, and they want to hit up Russia like that real quick. And what's this other video? We got a couple of videos, and we're going to get out of here, man. But check this next video out, man. Same news source. Pretty good video. Check it out.
Countries around the world are seeing this. The attack on Ukraine, the isolation of Russia. So all of them are rethinking their strategies. Neutral states are rethinking non-alignment. Pacifist nations are raising armies again. The only victim of nuclear attacks, Japan, is talking about hosting nukes. Clearly, Putin's war has forced a rethink of policies that are almost a century old. We'll begin with Japan. In 1945, the United States dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan. Around 200,000 people were killed. Since then, Japan has advocated pacifism. They know the power of nuclear weapons. They know the evil of an atom bomb. Yet some Japanese leaders are thinking about it, like former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Here's what he said about hosting American nukes. In NATO, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Italy take part in nuclear sharing, hosting American nuclear weapons. We need to understand how security is maintained around the world and not consider it taboo to have an open discussion. This is what Shinzo Abe said. And just to be clear, this is not some local politician in Japan. This is their longest-serving prime minister and influential voice in the ruling party. Has Prime Minister Kishida responded to it? Well, he has. Kishida says hosting nukes is out of the question for Japan and that Japan's non-nuclear principles are sacred. But that's not the case for Belarus. They're diving into the Russian bear hug. This week, the Belarusian parliament passed a key legislation. What does it say? 2 major things. A, that Belarus can host Russian nuclear weapons. And B, that Russian troops can stay permanently on their soil. In other words, Belarus is becoming a Russian satellite state. And if that happens, other European nations may react, nations like Finland. Until now, they have remained non-aligned. But after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Finns are rethinking. Let me show you what a new opinion poll found. 53% people backed joining the NATO, 28% opposed it, and 19% were unsure. More than 50,000 people signed a resolution asking Finland's parliament to debate this issue. What is the government saying? Finland's Prime Minister, Sanna Marin, has supported non-alignment. At the same time, she wants to keep her options open. She says if it comes to national security, she will apply for NATO membership. Switzerland, too, is making moves. On Monday, they announced joining the European Union sanctions on Russia. But the most consequential pivot, you could say, has come from Germany. Twice in the last century, they unleashed world wars, the Germans. Their belligerence led to large-scale violence. So after the Second World War, Germany withdrew into a shell. They spent little on the military. They took a back step in world politics. Basically, they became a reluctant power. But last week, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz made a U-turn. He is planning to spend $112 billion on defense. He's sending weapons to Ukraine. This is the return of German hard power. What about the so-called rogue states? How are they seeing this war? As a lesson, Ukraine handed over its nuclear weapons in 1994. 28 years later, they're under attack. What does that say to countries like North Korea and Iran? That nukes help. Both countries are blaming the US for this war. North Korea also tested a ballistic missile on Sunday, their 8th test this year. Kim Jong-un sees what is happening in Ukraine. He will draw the links between nukes and deterrence. So chances are he will hold on closely to those weapons. Where does that leave South Korea? A new poll found that 71% of the South Korean population wants a nuclear weapon. Technically, Seoul is part of the US nuclear umbrella. What does that mean? If needed, the US will deploy nukes to protect South Korea. But how reliable is that promise? Will America risk its own cities to protect Seoul? Many South Koreans do not want to take that chance. Same with Iran. We were told that a nuclear deal was within reach with Iran. Now the tone has changed. Iran says key issues are yet to be resolved. The Ayatollah is blaming America's what he calls mafia regime for Russia's war. The deal may still happen, but Iran will definitely play hardball. In conclusion, let me say this. Putin's invasion has busted a 21st century myth that war is impossible. If you're powerful enough, if your core interests are threatened, you can wage war. That is the message from the Russian invasion. So every country is rethinking its strategy. Some are hoping for alliance support, like Finland. Some are betting on a nuclear umbrella, like Belarus and Japan. Some are building their own defense, like Germany. Whatever the strategy, we can be sure of one thing. We are entering a new era of hard power politics.
All right. So you see that, the alliance and the nuclear umbrella. I think that was very interesting. It said Japan became a pacifist state. You know what I mean? Because of what happened. Who did that? Who blew them up? We blew them up. America blew them up. Right now they say, oh, Pearl Harbor, they came over and did this. So we had to go over there and do that. Then we said we were sorry, and then we went and built that whole country up. And that's the only reason why it's not in ruins, and the only reason it's not a third world country. But best believe they got a lot of American ties over there now. It was man, oh man, oh man. So now they got all the little countries running scared. They want to have nukes, and you see they don't want Iran to get nukes. They don't really want Kim Jong to get nukes, but they can't really mess with Kim Jong because he's in the corner over there above China. So China like, don't come over here with that. You know, but excuse me, Iran, they don't really want them to get nukes, right? But then they gave some nuclear submarines to Australia. Man, these guys working together. These guys are working together. Very wicked, very, very wicked nations, in my opinion. So I think that's what's gonna happen because I was gonna read that letter of Giuseppe. If you ever seen that show about the letter of Giuseppe about the 3 world wars that was planned. You know, because right now we're talking about Russia and Ukraine and all of that, but the third world war is supposed to be, it's supposed to be with the global Zionists in Palestine. That's what they were saying. Because right now they're not talking about that. So I don't know if Iran will be like. Shout out to Tail Ministries. He said when they start talking about the Medes and the Persians, which is Iran. You know, being a rogue state or being this, that, and the other, then you know it's going to get real in the field. But it can shift. The narrative can shift real quick. Because I remember, 9/11 happened, and it was like, oh man, this is terrible. What happened to us? And Osama bin Laden is in the Afghanistan mountains and this, that, and the other. Pakistan, Afghanistan. You know, for those who are alive and who remember that. Then it's like, that's it. We finna have a war on terror. It ended up in Iraq. Like, I couldn't understand that shift. You going to war on terror and ended up in Iraq. And didn't, quote unquote, catch them till later under Barack's administration. So-called, they come in and they supposedly got him and say, okay, where's he at? Oh, we ain't got his body though. What? Where? Oh, we threw it in the ocean. Like, man, these... I'm not making this up. Go look it up. Supposed to have this brave Navy SEAL team went over there and got Osama, and then threw his body in the ocean. But it's been a lot of false flags. It's been a lot of different things, man, going on. And so we just got to be careful, man. And if you say something against what they got going on, bam, there go your credit score. Bam, there go your channel. Bam, there go, you're going to be shunned and this, that, and the other. You know, they call the truth conspiracy theory and misinformation. And it is some crackpots and it is some crazy stuff out there. But just tell the truth. You know what I mean? But I think that's very, very interesting. A lot of countries. So I really believe, you know, a lot of people don't, you know, we've been saying the New World Order and all that. They want to get a militarized police force. Like, look, all y'all come, let's join together and we'll protect you and we'll save you. And, you know, you just hand over your weapons and then we'll just protect you. You know what I mean? Because you never know who's going to come up and run up on you. Then if you say, no, I'm good, then they give the weapons or the money to a rogue group, and then they come and get at you and like, see, I told you, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, but you gave them the weapons and money to come. But it's not funny, but it's very, 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 very interesting. So my next point, I got a lot of different things. So I had really 6 things, but I'm not going to even put it on there. But I want to see this thing right here about the Rothschilds, these quotes about war, right? Nathan Rothschild, right? I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if you can see that. Yeah, you can. And hopefully my joints won't get dinged or taken down. I care not what puppet is in place upon the throne of England to rule the empire, or on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British empires, and I control the British money supply. Nathan Rothschild. All right. A.M. Rothschild. Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes his laws, right? And so that's what I was going back to be you know, oh, we Democrat, we Republican, we donkeys, we elephants, we blue or we red, and we go through all these different things, and oh, we're communists and they're communists, and we're trying to fight for the freedom of democracy and blah 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 blah. Well, I feel you on that, but at the same time, it's an unseen hand behind all that they're not telling you about. All right, all wars are banker wars. A.M. Rothschild. Right? American and British intelligence have documented evidence that the House of Rothschild and other international bankers have financed both sides of every war since the American Revolution. And G.S. Rothschild, Gertrude, if my sons did not want war, there will be none. You feel what I'm saying? So that's very, very interesting in that. And some people say, oh, that's misinformation. And I got some, you know, but these guys that own these banks, these big farmers, these big tech companies, you know what I mean? A lot of these guys, man, they bankrolling, you know what I mean? And so I guess they needed a new devil. They needed a new Putin. And I'm not making them no Boy Scout, you know what I mean? But we don't know, man. We don't have all of the information. There have been false flags in the past, you know. And then we trust them, and then we say, oh, they lied, and then they come up with a story. You're telling half lies and half truth, man. We don't know. We got to keep our eyes on the Most High, man. We got to keep our eyes on the Most High. These folk, man, they on a whole nother different level. A whole nother different level. I'm going to share something else with you. I'm going to share this screen. I'm trying to get through the show real quick, but we're just chewing the fat. And check out this interesting on France 24 channel. Now, these, I ain't come up with this, is talking about it might be different false flags and stuff like that. But it's very, very interesting. Check this out, man. It's just, check it out.
Good to see you, James. First up, you've been looking at what appears to be a Russian-generated fake news emerging from East Ukraine. The claim is that 3 were killed in an explosion. Separatists are pinning that explosion on Kiev.
That's right, and it made headlines in various media, such as the Jerusalem Post here. This claim: separatists in East Ukraine accuse Kiev over blast that killed 3 people, with a supposedly the cause of that blast being an improvised explosive device. And you can see here in one media that has kind of picked apart the evidence, or so-called evidence in that regard. This is glasnost.gone.org, which looks into Russian disinformation. Again, that's a headline: car blasted on Donetsk Gorvalka highway, 3 casualties reported. Now, that was released by the Donetsk news agency, so an official source in these separatist republics in the east. Now, if you look at the car that was supposedly caught up in this explosion being blamed on Kiev, a couple of things should become apparent that would indicate that there's something fishy about it. First of all, there's no registration plate there, and you would expect that if a car was caught up in an explosion like that, that the registration plate would be intact. Indeed, the windows are blown out of that vehicle as well, which went up in flames, but there's no trace or evidence of glass or shattered glass on the ground. So that's another factor that might lead one to think that there's something up. And indeed, at the back of the vehicle as well, you can see here that there is also no registration plate. So neither at the front nor the rear of the vehicle. So no shattered glass, despite the vehicle being without any windows, no registration numbers. So there are two factors that would indicate that there's something up. And also a third or a piece of, I suppose, evidence that would indicate that something is up. These very neat bullet holes in the car that were being described as being as a result of shrapnel. Now, shrapnel does not create very clear, neat, precise bullet holes like that. And in the body of this text, a more likely explanation is that somebody shot the vehicle with a machine gun to make it look like shrapnel had caused that damage. So there are quite a few factors there that would lead one to think that there's something up. And in images that we won't show you, Delano, or viewers, because they're a little bit too grisly, there were 2 bodies in that vehicle. Now, in one of the bodies, you can see a skull, which has basically the skull is sawn in half. They're grisly images, hence why we're not showing them to you. But a skull sawn in half would more than likely indicate that this body had been retrieved from, or had gone through an autopsy or medical procedure, so was possibly retrieved from a morgue. This is not the way in which a body that had been caught up in an explosion like that would appear. The skull was clearly sawn in half with a bullet wound. So there are much more likely explanations for that than somebody being caught up in this explosion. Now, just two further pieces of information that are worth noting. That explosion was picked up by two English speakers who are in this geographical location at the moment. One by the name of Patrick Lancaster, who videos the accident in citizen journalism style, pointing out the bullet holes, saying that they're as a result of shrapnel, basically buying into the official version of events. And you also have this second Twitter user here, Dean O'Brien, reporting from the front and basically parroting everything as if it's fact. So giving further, I suppose, oxygen to what is highly likely to be a false flag event.
Now, this,
all right. So like I said, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying that there have been some crisis actors hired. There have been some crazy events happen in the past. Again, I'm not saying it is or isn't. That's just a very interesting piece of news on France 24. It's on YouTube. So, you did this and that. No. That's on y'all stuff. You feel me? And it might not be true. It might not be true, right? But it's very interesting. The plates is gone. I was like, we don't use critical thinking skills no more. We go off emotionalism, and we put a Ukraine banner up, and we say, pray for Ukraine. And again, like I seen the picture of a Ukrainian lady. She was like 20 something, and the kid was crying, and I was just like, man. So I know some brothers and some people, they hardcore, like, oh, we ain't gonna, you know what I mean? Because what I'm about to show next is about the African students was denied train entry. We all know about this story, but I'm gonna still show all 3 of them. I still didn't feel, man, that young lady and her daughter, they ain't had nothing to do with folk getting on the train. You know what I'm saying? So it's still like, dang, man. over 500,000 people. I don't know if that number correct or not. It might be left the country and trains leaving, and it's kind of crazy. They went straight into survival of the fittest mode because a lot of them was students from Africa and they were studying over there, and I don't know how they got treated while they was in the Ukraine area, but when the rubber met the road and Russia was up the road, it was time to leave. And it was like, y'all ain't getting on this train. Y'all seen these videos before. I'm going to show them real quick. I ain't trying to stir the pot, but it's very interesting, though. I want you to check it out. And we're going to get out of here. Check it out.
Wars do not make men great, but they do bring out the greatness in good men. War may bring out the worst in human nature, and that is what is happening in Ukraine right now. As the Ukrainian war escalates and as more Russian troops keep gaining ground, most people are finding themselves in a precarious situation where they have to leave Ukraine for the neighboring countries. And African governments have requested neighboring Poland to host their citizens who have been living in Ukraine. But there seems to be a problem. For Africans who made the long trip from the eastern side of Ukraine, from cities like Kiev and Odessa to the Polish border, using their own resources, they are now being denied entry. They are not being seen as refugees like the rest. They are being seen as asylum seekers. Many Black Africans stuck in Ukraine have reportedly been refused entry into Poland. Several people have reported that Ukrainians are the only ones being accepted in many cases. Inside Ukraine, things are getting even worse. There's racism openly playing out in broad daylight. There was this particular video where Africans were being refused entry into a train taking people from Ukraine to Poland. Africans were forced to wait for all Ukrainians to go first in several trains and had to wait until the last Ukrainian had boarded trains before they would be allowed to get into one.
These are the Black community. We are not allowing any Black people to enter inside the gates. We are all here. It's only Ukrainians that they are allowing in. Even the ones with kids, they're not allowing them in. Very happy here. For days, and nobody's asking any questions. Only Ukrainian women and kids they are allowing in through these gates. All the places blocked and all are full of Blacks. From different communities, from different countries. Nobody's talking to us. These are the Black community. We are not allowing any Black people to enter inside the gates. We are all here. It's only Ukrainians that they are allowing in.
And no free ride.
Wow. That's wild right there. It's very wild. They're not talking about that on the news, They're not, and I don't expect them to. So this is a African student, and we're gonna hear her story.
I woke up to the sound of like an explosion.
Nigerian doctor Akintola Onidamilola is trying to flee Ukraine's capital, Kyiv.
So this is what the road is like. It's kind of empty.
Like thousands of other Africans who went to Ukraine for their studies, she's now stranded amid a Russian military invasion.
Just all of us are just trying to do what we can to get out of here.
Cities under siege across Ukraine are home to tens of thousands of African students studying medicine, engineering, and military affairs. What was seen as a cheaper alternative to Western Europe and the United States has now become a war zone. Russian tanks, planes, and ships on Thursday launched the biggest European invasion of another nation since World War II. This is Dnipro in Ukraine's east, home to Ghanaian medical student Nana Efa Hockman.
For now, I don't know. The only option we have is just to go to Poland border, but it's not really safe because going to Poland border, literally, we need to pass through some of these cities before we can reach the western side of the country.
Morocco, Nigeria, and Egypt are among the top 10 countries worldwide with foreign students in Ukraine. together supplying 16,000 students, according to the Education Ministry. But with flights grounded, African governments thousands of miles away are struggling to support their citizens. Ghanaian engineering student Percy Ahini Yaboa, speaking from the eastern city Kharkiv, says it's only now that the reality is hitting. Afraid of taking the road west and without flights or money, he's staying put.
Sorry for that delay. I had to take the mute off because sometimes it echo. And this is the last video, and then I'm gonna share the other information on another show. But this is another one. This is another one about the Africans facing discrimination. This is not to get you frustrated or up in a roar or anything like that, but it's just to let you know some of the stuff that they're not covering.
Is it right? Is it right? They're not letting the black girl go. They're not letting the black girl go. They're not letting the black girl go. They're not letting the black.
There have been an uproar after details emerged that Black Africans in Ukraine are being denied entry into trains that are supposed to ship them away from Ukraine to neighboring countries. And the fact that there are no air travel, the only way out of Ukraine is to connect to any neighboring country to the west, and then, of course, take your plane back to your home country. So the only mode of transport left are the trains that connect Ukraine to neighboring countries like Poland. But Africans are being denied entry into those trains. Away from the trains, even those Africans who are lucky enough to get or to trek their way to the Polish border, they are not guaranteed entry. Poland is denying Africans direct entry into their country.
These are the black community here. We are not allowing any black people to enter inside the gates. We are all here. It's only Ukrainians that they are allowing in. Even the ones with kids, they're not allowing them in.
Yeah, so that's very, very interesting, man. So we praying for those folk over there. You know, again, I'm not going to, some people are like, we ain't praying for the Ukraine people. You know, some of them is very, very racist. We know racism, white supremacy is all over the world. You know what I mean? And it's very funny how we get that selective empathy. That selective empathy is not cool. You treat one group of people less than, and then give another group of people first rate and first class citizenship. So that's very, very whack. To go over there and they were studying. Again, I don't know how these people were treated over there, but that's real crazy, man. So it's a lot of information to digest. So we can't, this, that, and the other, unpack it like that. But a few other major players are not in it. I mean, we got some troops over there, but we ain't really been in it like that. And North Korea is not in it like that yet. China is talking to Russia. You know what I mean? With them two that come together, they China got 100 million man army. You know what I'm saying? Man, before machines, before robots, before drones, before nukes. So yeah, man, they got some stuff. And I'm not saying that out of fear. We got to make sure we look towards the hills. Come our help come from Yahusha, the Most High. And so we got to make sure we stay focused and keep our eyes on the Most High, man. But I know that it's been false flags in the past. I know that it's been, I personally think it's about crashing this dollar, because we trillions of dollars in debt, and all these different things going on. So they got to blame it on something. They got to blame the inflation, or they blame the dollar crashing on Russia or somebody. Somebody got to take. They always pass the buck, and I believe that's another reason why they was like, oh, now we can't get with the critical race theory. Can't get with that, because you can't shine a dim light on us. We got to be the best. So, man, racism, white supremacy is real. It's a different kingdom. It's a different system. Everybody's not a part of it, but a whole lot of people benefit from it. And so when the Bible says, "Come out of her, my people," those white evangelicals that's grafted into the Mashiach, grafted into the tree, they got to denounce that the kingdom of racism, white supremacy. The Bible says you can't serve Yah and Mammon, and it's hidden in the form of capitalism and greed and pride. You know what I mean? So that Mammon, to me, is modern day capitalism. Not saying you can't have a business, not saying you can't do certain things. This show probably ruffle a lot of feathers, and it is what it is, man. But send me a comment, holler at me, talk to me about it. Very, very interesting, man. Very, very interesting. Make sure you subscribe, man. Subscribe. All right. If you ever checked out Sister Jill message, Power Bill, Minister Jill, very, very powerful. Very, 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 very powerful. And still working on this one, man. I just ain't put it all the way together yet. The Modern Medicine Part 2, Nipsey, Nick, and CB. And hopefully somebody won't, that we can build on it, So Elephant Man Podcast Network, Grown Man Conversation, dealing with the elephants in the room. Next time I'm gonna read that letter of Giuseppe again. And I don't know if you know about the Kingdom of Khazaria. We're gonna talk about the Kingdom of Khazaria. And just guess where Ukraine is at, where the old Kingdom of Khazaria used to be, right? And so we're gonna talk about that. That's gonna be very, very interesting. Some people say, "What is Khazaria?" We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it soon. Blessings to you all.
Perfect.